What if the rulebook for a country of over 1 billion people wasn't what it seemed? Today, we're peeling back the layers of a document that's often talked about but honestly rarely understood, the Constitution of the People's Republic of China. All right, let's jump right in.
So, before we get into the weeds, let's just take a step back. In any country, what is the single highest law, the one document that everything else is measured against? You got it, it's the Constitution. Think of it like the operating system for a country. It sets up the government, defines the rights of the people, and, this is the big one, it's supposed to put limits on power. It's the final word.
But here's the twist, and it's a big one. What if that ultimate rulebook, the very document designed to limit power, actually does the opposite? What if it carves out an exception and names one single political party as the supreme leader, effectively placing it above the rules? Well, that's the core puzzle we're tackling today.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into that twist right at the beginning of the document. Then, we'll look at the blueprint, what's written down on paper about rights and powers. After that, we'll meet the real architect and see how the system works in practice. We'll unpack this concept of a party state, and finally, we'll get to why this document really matters.
All right, let's start with that twist. Because right from the opening lines, before we even get to a single law or article, the Chinese Constitution lays a very, very different kind of foundation than you might expect.
It all starts in the preamble. And look, this isn't just a flowery introduction. This is the ideological DNA of the entire system. It explicitly establishes the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the CPC, not as a political outcome, but as a foundational principle of the state itself. The party's leadership isn't just a fact of life, it's constitutionally enshrined.
Okay, so with that pretty huge foundation set in stone, let's look at the blueprint itself. What does the Constitution actually say about rights and power on paper? Well, check out Article 2. It states, and I'm quoting here, "All power belongs to the people." I mean, that sounds familiar, right? It's the core idea of popular sovereignty, that the citizens are the ultimate source of authority. On paper, it's crystal clear. And the list keeps going. The Constitution guarantees freedoms that would look totally at home in many other constitutions around the world. Freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly. It's all there in black and white, painting a picture of a state that champions the rights of its people.
The document also lays out the whole machinery of the state. A legislature, called the National People's Congress, an executive branch, courts, a military. On the surface, it looks like a pretty standard government structure. But remember that preamble? This is where that little detail starts to change everything.
And this brings us to the real architect of the system. We've seen the official blueprint. Now let's look at how it's actually built and operated in the real world.
And here is the catch. All those rights we just talked about, freedom of speech, press, assembly, they exist, sure, but they come with a giant asterisk. They can be restricted and are restricted by sweeping national security laws. This is the crucial gap between text and reality. Rights are granted, but their exercise is ultimately controlled by the party and the state.
So how is that control maintained? Through a core principle called democratic centralism. Now, that name sounds kind of balanced, but in reality, the centralism part is doing all the heavy lifting. Think of it as a pyramid scheme for power. Decisions are made at the very top by the party leadership, and they flow down. Each level must obey the level above it. It's designed for unity and absolute control.
Now let's talk about the military. The Constitution creates the People's Liberation Army, or PLA. Simple enough. Every country has an army. But the real question is, who does this army answer to?
And this is a critical distinction. The PLA is not the army of the Chinese state. It is the armed wing of the Communist Party. Its ultimate loyalty is to the party, not the nation. It's famously said that in China, the party commands the gun.
And you see this pattern of party leadership everywhere. That highest organ of state power, the National People's Congress, it's subordinate to the party. The courts, they're required to follow the party's leadership, which means there's no independent judiciary. Even the president's real power comes not from their state title, but from their top job in the party.
This trend toward absolute centralized power was basically locked in for good in 2018. A huge amendment to the Constitution completely removed the two-term limit for the president. This change effectively allows the leader of the party to also lead the country for life, erasing any meaningful distinction between the two roles.
So what do you even call a system like this, where the lines between a political party and the government are so blurred they basically disappear? Well, there's a term for it: a party state.
This chart really lays it out.
In a liberal democracy, the whole point is separation of powers. In China's party state, it's party supremacy. Where one has competing political parties, the other has single-party leadership. Where one has an independent judiciary, the other has a judiciary that serves the party. And where one constitutionally protects freedoms, the other allows those freedoms to be limited by state security. They're just two fundamentally different models.
Okay, so this all leads to a pretty big question. If the party is all-powerful anyway, why even have a constitution at all? What's the point?
And here's the key takeaway. Most constitutions are designed to put chains on government power. China's constitution works differently. Its primary purpose isn't to restrict power, but to legitimize it. It's a political document that creates a formal, legal framework for the party's absolute authority. It doesn't build a cage for power, it builds a throne.
And that leaves us with a fundamental question that goes way beyond China. When you look at any constitution in the world, you have to ask yourself, is its main purpose to put chains on power or to build a throne for it? It's a question worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me for this explaining.